one of the most exciting stamp sets. Well, actually, it's two stamp sets in my new collection with Creative Expressions is the paper doll and the paper doll wig stamp sets. So as you can see, there's all the different parts of this female figure. And she has her face there, of course. And in the second set, the wig set, you've got alternate heads that you can use. Of course, they can stand alone, but they're fun to mix and match. Now you can stamp these out and cut them out entirely and pop them together with brads. That's one project. Or you can use these as a base when you are stamping and just stamp them straight into a journal or a card set, whatever your project is. I'm going to have a set of sisters or sisters in spirit across my pages. I'm working in an altered book, so I've got a surface of gorgeous dry joyful gesso in the background, and I'm using a waterproof ink, one of my squid ink stamp pads in the background, and I've just popped the torso on there as a start, and I've left room for the heads to be placed there as well. Now what I'm also doing is I'm just lining things up, and then with a damp baby wipe, you could use a damp piece of paper towel, I'm removing ink where I don't want it to overlap what I'm creating on. So when I'm using the paper doll, there are little dotted lines. I'm removing those because I only need them if I'm going to cut the whole shape out. But for this, I don't need the little dot lines when I'm creating stamped figures on the page. And for this particular face, the angle that I want to put her on, there's a little bit of extra hair there that I don't want to come across in front of the shoulder. I want it to go behind. So if you didn't want to have the hair that I've drawn, that I've created for you on the wigs or on these faces, you wanted to create your own hair, you could just wipe that ink off before stamping as well. Now, I'm not going to get a perfect impression. I've got a textured surface, I have paint, and it's vintage paper, and I've got collage in this journal. The page is rough, so I'm not going to get a perfect impression, but I'm going to get an impression that I can then work on and customize. I've got the little hip section of my paper doll here, and I'm aligning it up just so I've got the waist going in and out, and I've got the little hips there, and again removing with my paper towel just any of the ink in areas that I don't want. I'm just applying ink to the sides, and of course this is just a little approximation, a guideline, and then you can make the little figures have various widths. They could have bigger hips, bigger waist, smaller waist, bigger bust, smaller bust, whatever you want. This is just a little guideline to kickstart the whole process. Before I put their little legs on, I want to create some outfits for them, and I think it's fun to use collage. So I'm going to use some of my collage sheets. There's 5 different sets, and I'm using collage papers from various sets. And I've just created a little skirt shape, and I'm just flipping that collage sheet back and forth. It's not quite see-through enough to be able to see like through to the image underneath, but just by popping the picture back and forth, I can approximate where that is, and I can refine my shape. But then I've got this lovely little skirt, a little printed skirt. So I've thought, well, I'm going to have different little outfits for each girl. What fun it would be to design a whole fashion collection of your own. If you've got a creative person in the house that would love to create their own fashion, they could maybe make the dresses for you, or vice versa. And we don't just have to stick to dresses. Let's do some shorts and some trousers. Why not some printed palazzo pants to go swanning about in? And in this example, I'm going to use collage just for the skirts and bottoms, but you could also create full dresses. You could do the shirts, tops, collage for the hair, whatever your creativity leads you to do. I find that using stamps, stencils, collage papers, all of these tools, these creative tools that are designed to just give you a head start, a short circuit, a quick way to get the ball rolling, allow me to be just more creative, more experimental, because I've got the little figures together so quickly and the little heads and faces and hair. Something that would, without these things, take many hours and maybe a few creative sessions, I can get fairly well advanced. Well, I'm going to finish all of these 6 figures in one sitting. I find that just really helps me to relax into my creativity and just have fun creating and having a collection, a fashion collection of bright, crazy prints. Now that I've got my little fashion sorted out, I need to complete the legs. Now, not all of the girls need to have their legs stamped, but some of them will need some legs. And I'm using the stamp set again, just taking off the little dotted line at the top of the paper doll stamp, because I'm just not going to need it. I don't even need to ink up the actual feet because my page isn't long enough to have everything on there. It's just nice to have them running off the page. I'm removing ink from the one side of the leg so I can get one leg in front of the other. Very, very customizable. And so when I'm designing stamps and things, I'm thinking of them more as tools that you can use to further your creativity. Of course, I want them to be a standalone thing. So if you just want to use them to stamp and color or whatever it is that takes your fancy, that's great. But if you wanted to push it in a different direction and create your own look on top of them, that is what I'm wanting to do. Now, to stick these down, I'm going to use the clear collage medium, which is the new Jane Davenport one. Fabulous. With the skinny mini brush, I'm using my Trust the Mess sheet and just putting the collage medium on the back of my collage piece and a little bit on the surface. That's going to act as the glue to keep them all together. The skinny mini brush and this very fluid clear collage medium will really help you not have air bubbles and wrinkles. You will be amazed at the combination of these two things. And of course, when we're using it with these the collage sheets, which are made from rice paper, it just makes the whole collaging process so easy. And on my website on janedavenport.com, you can see in videos where I'm doing this and you can see the process happening. Also, if you join my Facebook group, I do lives in my group all the time. I love my creative community and I'm always playing around with collage and all of the new things, so you can see them in action. And I could draw the arms on, but I can also use the paper doll stamp, and again, just removing ink where I don't think I'll need it. I'm using my stamp block set that is from my website. I love it because it's clear, but it also has that grid lining on it just to help me line things up if I want to. And I just have them in sizes that I find super helpful. As I'm creating, I'm trying to make the hip positions and the arms and the legs just a little bit different on each of these girls so that they look like they're all sisters in spirit, but they all have their own minds and they all have their own things that they're thinking about and moving in different ways. Now I think it's time to give them some flesh, so I'm going to put down some of the Joyful Gesso in the neutral colours, which will all work as skin tones as well. So we have High Kick Sienna, Positive Peach, Blissful Beige, Carefree Cream, and a little bit of a colour that will be coming later, the beautiful chocolate colour. And all of these colours work fabulously as backgrounds, but we can also use them to add skin tone to the girls. Now these girls are sisters in spirit and I want to have some variation and variety, so we have lots of different skin tones, so I can create warm skin tones, cooler skin tones, lighter and darker. I've also got Merry Melon, which is a beautiful colour for cheeks, and I really just want to get a base coat down for each girl. I'm just trying to literally flesh out and see who they are, where I'm going to change their hair or keep their hair as the stamp thing or move, if I'm going to move the arms, legs around. Are they all going to have these little sort of bikini tops? Am I going to add a shirt over the top? I'm going to have to do more collage. these things will resolve. But what I do know is that if I have the Joyful Gesso as the base paint, underneath everything, I can add colored pencils, I can add ink, I can add watercolor, I can add more layers of acrylic, I can add layer cake, I can add whatever art supplies I like, because this paint is so matte that it will allow me to do whatever I like. It is a gesso, it is an ultra matte paint. I'm using the color Delightful Denim as a nice dark rich denim color to create some little tops, and I've decided I'm going to keep the little tops like this but make each one a little bit different, so they're still figure hugging, but I want to make each one a little bit different. They've all got different bottoms, so they may as well have different little tops as well. Just to build the illusion of one leg coming in front of the other on the girl in the long slim skirt. I've used 2 different browns and using the different colors to build up some different skin tones, from really light to beautiful darker tones to lighter tones. And then of course I can mix the colors together to make my own mixes. But in the first wash that I'm putting over, I just really want to get one color down, whatever it is. And then I can add some little highlights on the collarbone or on the hip or tummy, or in the face as well, on the nose, on the cheekbones, on the chin, just to help start to bring the faces to life. What I would do, what I would say to you if you're doing one of my classes, is just to get that base color down first, and then worry about highlights and shadows and contouring and building volume as you progress. But I'm also know how to work quickly, and I've done this lots and lots of times. So what I'm doing is adding my little highlights in before things get too dry, and then I can smudge it with my finger just to blend them in, and I'll get a nice little highlight as I'm going. And I'm going to add another color, the Blitheful Blue, and mix it with the Delightful Denim to create a few various different blue colors. Add it into the eyes, why not? Mix 2 colors together to try and mix another little sort of like a bluey lilac kind of color to make a little halter top, a little cut off singlet. I'm just creating a little twisted bikini top for each of the girls. And with one of my fine point musical markers in a color called White Noise, so the whites of the eyes, the bridge of the nose where light would catch, cheekbones, clavicle rather, or collarbone, maybe on the shoulders. And once I've added my highlights, I really want to come in with my deepest, darkest shadows, or vice versa. If I add those, then I'd love to add my highlights right after, just because I'm really setting up the far ends of my color spectrum on the page. It just gives everything else more volume. I've got a color called Material Girl that I'm adding for the lips, and a little bit of a color called Lips Are Sealed. These are from the Fine musical markers, and they've got a fine tip that you can switch. So it's got a chisel tip, a bullet tip, or you can put the pinpoint tip in as well that we sell separately. So you can you've got 3 different tips in there. So nice. Now this particular color I'm using before I shook it up. Now with musical markers, with all paint pens, you shake them to activate the color. Sometimes I don't do that. You get more of a watery color coming out of them, but then it will mix of its own. It's better if you do shake it up. But see how it's getting more and more opaque as I go, but I'm getting different colors. So on the right hand side of the page, there's a bit more of a strawberry blonde, and on the left hand side of the page, it looks more blonde. It's just more dense, the ink, because it's starting to mix and flow through the pen, really as it's meant to. But I'm getting the 2 colors, so it's sort of got a harmonization. I've got so much happening with their clothing and everything else being different. Why not have at least the hair color the same? In fashion shows, there's usually a harmonization somewhere so that the focus is on the fashion, not on everything else. So all the models will have the same or similar makeup, same or similar hair color or hairstyle, so that although they look interesting, they go in the background of the fashion. But you just need to decide what is going to be important when you're creating. So I just use that as a harmonizing effect across the page. I did consider giving them all the same eye color in the same way that can also bring a harmonization when I've got a lot happening. And they do all have blue top. Well, the girl on the end has a pink top, but different colors of blue, most of them. She's just a little bit different. So we've got some little harmonizations, a little bit of color composition, if you will, happening across the pages with my sisters in spirit. I'm using my white pinpoint paint pen again to, actually, it's not a pinpoint paint pen, it's a musical marker with a pinpoint paint pen here. Oh my goodness, it's like I have my own language for Davenports. Now the paint isn't really completely dry yet. I can actually see where it's still wet on screen now, but there are certain art supplies that you can certainly use over them, and Power Pastels is one of them. It can grab onto the paper and keep going. I'm not talking about soggy wet paint, just hasn't fully cured yet paint. Things that won't work on not fully cured paint, pastels, like my palette pastels, coloured pencils, they'll dig at the paint. Watercolour will stop it from drying. But Power Pastels, they've got that oil and wax mix, and they will just sort of glide along and just be happy just being used and enjoy themselves. And to add in some other colourful fine details, I could use acrylics, of course, but I'm going to use some of my layer cakes. These are in the Sweet Treats and Secret Ingredients palettes, and I'm using a water brush because it has such a flexible and fine nib. Now there's no water in this water brush. I want to really be able to finely control the amount of water so that the layer cake stays very creamy. If you haven't seen layer cake before, it's a paint that I've created that has the convenience and ease of pan watercolor, but the gorgeousness of gouache, layerability of acrylic. But it's not permanent, it is a water soluble thing, it's a creature. And I can create on and on and on with this, adding all sorts of different things. How about a little bit of gold? A glittery pen for a bit of jewelry too, a bit of bling bling, why not? You can see everything that I've included in this video at janedavenport.com, including more videos. You can join my Facebook group, as I mentioned before, and be part of my creative community and be there with lots of other fabulous, wonderful people sharing their love of creativity and Jane Davenport art supplies. The joyful gesso and the stamps you can find wherever Creative Expressions stockists are. And if you can't see the collection at your favourite stockist, why not ask them to get it in for you? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.